I do believe that just detected a comment section going straight to hell. So first off, I want to say the response to the video I made with my thoughts on Jodie Whittaker being cast as the Doctor has been kind of unprecedented. It's been phenomenal, honestly, in terms of both the viewership, the general reaction, and the comment section. Well, mostly. By and large, the comment sections have been actually really interesting for me to watch when they've remained respectful. Unfortunately, they don't always, but this isn't really a comment response video. I'm not quite so self-indulgent as to get into those quite yet, but I do want to address something that I kept seeing get brought up in the comments, because I feel like it's something that is not only not a great comparison, but making the comparison, especially the way people do, as like it closes the book on an argument, it is kind of distracting. Something that I saw repeatedly brought up by people who take some degree of issue with Jodie Whittaker playing the Doctor, specifically in terms of the Doctor no longer being portrayed by a man, is comparing it to the 2016 reboot of Ghostbusters. And I kind of want to address that, because like I said, I'm not sure they've completely thought this through. And there's something I just feel the need to point out in the hope of calming some people down a little bit. Now, I, again, do have concerns about Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. I'm also very hopeful. I'm certainly not abandoning the show or anything like that. I might come back to that point as well. But I do have points of concern, and I've expressed them in 2 videos now, so I'm not going to rehash all that. But the comparison to Ghostbusters 2016 doesn't work for one major reason. That was a reboot. Now, here's something about a reboot. A reboot, in a way, kind of erases the old film. Now, not in any true practical way, as people who are often in favor of these kinds of changes love to point out. No one's coming and taking away your old versions of Ghostbusters. You just watch that and let us do this. Well, that's true, but at the same time, what a reboot does say is, in this continuity, nothing that you loved about the original films happened. It doesn't count anymore. If we get to make any sequels to this, we're not going to acknowledge this. And if we have our way and this is successful, Ghostbusters will now mean this. And it will no longer mean the thing that it used to be that you used to love. Now, that's not unique to Ghostbusters. That's actually inherent in most reboots. So the reason it stuck out with Ghostbusters so much is that functionally, story-wise, and pretty much on every level, there was no need for it to be a reboot. It would have taken minimal tinkering with the story to just have it be a continuation, not completely wipe out the old continuity, and then not piss off a whole chunk of fans who often got lumped with the, unfortunately, incredibly loud and very rude people just going, "No girls allowed," but their concern was really over the feeling of legitimate loss because they were being told that what they loved doesn't count anymore. And again, that's kind of what happens with a reboot. And it stuck out with Ghostbusters because that was an ill-advised reboot. The project may have had, it had other issues going on as well. But I know that there was a whole contingent of fans who took issue with that movie, not because it was women, but because there was no need for it to completely erase the film that they loved. I was in that same camp. Now, ultimately, when the film came out, I didn't hate as much as I thought I would, but it also wasn't great. It was fine. It just kind of was. But I don't want to dwell too much on that, but I just want to make the point, what regeneration is, or actually, more specifically, what regeneration is not, is a reboot. Regeneration is a wonderful thing that is truly unique to Doctor Who. Now, I absolutely understand people who have concerns about the Doctor being played by a woman. As I said, I have some of my own. I get people feeling some degree of loss at the fact that the Doctor will no longer be portrayed by a man. I understand that. People who are making the decision that they will no longer watch the show because the Doctor is going to be portrayed by a woman. I don't agree with that one. But I understand the root of the sentiment, even if I very strongly don't agree with it, and I personally will be watching the show. But what I don't get is people acting as if Jodie Whittaker playing the Doctor somehow erases the previous incarnations of the Doctor. In fact, I've seen some comments where people basically say that's what it does, but it isn't. And again, that's part of the glorious thing about Doctor Who. Because of how regeneration works, not only does Jodie Whittaker playing the Doctor not erase any previous male version of the Doctor, it actually can't exist without them. And I don't just mean in the sense of, well, if there wasn't an original, we couldn't be still messing around with it. I mean, she, just narratively, she could not exist without all these previous incarnations. And Doctor Who as a show has always been very quick to integrate the past experiences of the Doctor, so none of that's going away. And more to the point, with something like Ghostbusters, if they wanted to make it male again, they were going to have to re-erase the new thing they just did. If, for whatever reason, this either doesn't work, or even if it does, once she's decided she's done with the part, we can get a man again. We may or may not, but you can get it back. So any sense of loss that you get, as long as you're willing to not abandon the show altogether, is going to be temporary. Now that's not me minimizing your sense of loss if you are feeling a sense of loss at the Doctor no longer being male, but it's temporary. Unless the show gets canceled, which is the other thing that I'm seeing in the comments that I really don't understand. I understand people who say that they believe that this move will cause the show to get canceled. I don't agree, but fine, I get that. That's what you believe will happen. What I don't get is when I see people who claim to be fans actively wishing that the show will now fail and get canceled because of this change. I would say I don't get that, but I suppose I do in the sense of they feel it will validate their anger at this move. But I'm not sure if the people making that particular leap, like going beyond just saying, I won't watch this, but actually saying, I hope the show gets canceled, which again, I know is happening. I'm seeing it happen in my own comment section. I don't know if they've thought that thought all the way through, because they're actually actively rooting for something that they claim to love to die. And I know that I'm the guy who put out a very ranty video screaming about how I wanted Warner Brothers DCEU movies to fail. But here's the thing, if you stuck through that video all the way through and let me get to my final point, the reason I wanted them to fail was so that they would have to try again. And the reason they would be able to try again is because the source material, the comic books, weren't going anywhere, whether the movies were successful or not. There might be ancillary stuff for Doctor Who. There might be comic books, there are audios, there are other things. But it's a show first. So when you root for the show to die, you're rooting for the source material to go away. You're rooting for the foundation to end. And I don't understand that. I never will. And as I said, I do have my concerns with the Doctor no longer being a man. But I root for this show. I will always root for this show. This is my favorite show on television. And I will always tune in because I want it to be great. And every episode that ever gets made, I want to watch so that I get to see whether or not it's great. And when it's not great, yeah, it sucks. And if it ever becomes consistently not great, which I know some people feel under Moffat it did, that sucks. Every new episode is a chance for it to be great. And that's why I'm always going to come back. Now, again, if you're making the decision to bail on the show now, I personally don't quite get, at least not giving it a shot to see if it's working for you. But at the very least, I would think that even if you decided to not watch for as long as Jodie Whittaker is the Doctor, that you would still sit back and go, boy, I hope it keeps going so that it can become something that I love again. As opposed to sitting back and going, man, I hope that thing that I used to love dies, because it'll validate my feelings about this particular thing that I don't think they should have done. So I think that's about it. I don't know if I just said something that was insightful and helpful, or that was self-indulgent and incendiary. And I suppose the reaction that I get to this one will be my answer. So, your thoughts on, I guess, what I just said? Are your thoughts continuing to change, evolve on the Doctor becoming a woman? Now that we've had, more time, more days to deal with it, is your opinion softening? Are you standing your ground? Are you more excited? Are you less excited? Whatever your thoughts are, and please keep them respectful. I love seeing discussions between people who disagree, as long as no one is, shouting obscenities at each other. So if you can keep it civil, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitter at Council of Geeks. Give a listen to the Council of Geeks podcast. I am also one half of the Punch Like a Girl podcast. Both of those are available on iTunes and Stitcher. And until next time, this council is adjourned.